2:33 a.m. Jebel Ali Port, Dubai, United Arab Emirates. 25 degrees north latitude, 55 degrees east longitude. Container Terminal 4 had been operational since 1979. It handled an average of 19,000 20-foot equivalent units per day and was the largest port in the Middle East. At any given moment, approximately 340,000 shipping containers were on the terminal's grounds in various stages of arrival, staging, or departure. Each container was a sealed metal box. Each box had been through a customs inspection at some point in its journey. Almost none had been opened. The 4 containers that had arrived from a Bahrain-registered shipping company 11 days earlier had passed through the standard customs scan. The X-ray profile had shown metallic contents consistent with the declared cargo, industrial refrigeration equipment. The scan had not been detailed enough to distinguish a Pilton-type Cornet ATGM launcher from a refrigeration compressor at the scan's resolution setting, which had been calibrated for speed rather than sensitivity, because Terminal 4 processed 19,000 units per day, and a higher resolution scan on every container would reduce throughput by approximately 23%. The 23% throughput reduction had been evaluated and rejected in the port's 2021 security review. The 4 containers had been staged in the port's transit zone, 340 meters from the U.S. Navy's Shore Logistics Unit facility at Jebel Ali, the logistics node that coordinated U.S. Navy vessel replenishment operations in the lower Gulf. At 2:33 a.m., the cellular detonator in each container received a signal from a transmitter 12 kilometers away that a member of the IRGC's Unit 910 External Operations Directorate had activated from a rented apartment in the Jebel Ali industrial zone. The detonator signal did not trigger an explosive. It triggered a servo mechanism that unlatched the container's internal side panels and deployed the weapon systems that had been concealed inside. Container 1, a 107mm multiple rocket launcher mounted on an electric traverse platform, loaded with 12 rockets. Its targeting data had been pre-programmed against the U.S. Navy Shore Logistics Unit facility's primary fuel storage tank. Container 2, a second 107mm MRL, loaded and pre-targeted against the facility's vehicle staging area and the fuel transfer pumps connecting the pier to the fuel farm. Container 3, 4 Cornet anti-tank guided missile launchers, pre-targeted against the Shore Logistics Unit's main building, the Port Security Office, and the 2 U.S. Navy vessels currently moored at the pier: USS Leyte Gulf, a Ticonderoga-class cruiser that had arrived for a routine port call 12 hours earlier, and USS Mason, an Arleigh Burke destroyer providing escort coordination. Container 4, a signals jamming system and a cellular relay node that would provide the attack coordination signal to a parallel operation 370 kilometers to the northwest, in Bahrain. The servo mechanisms deployed the weapon systems in 4.2 seconds. The first 107mm rocket launched at 2:33 a.m. The U.S. Navy Shore Logistics Unit did not have an active radar watching the transit zone 340 meters away. It had a perimeter fence, a guard rotation of 6 personnel, and a joint security station that monitored the port's CCTV network. The CCTV had a 15-second recording lag before alerts were generated. The first rocket impacted the primary fuel storage tank at 2:33 a.m. before the CCTV alert had been processed. The second rocket was in the air before the first impact sound had finished echoing across the terminal. Simultaneously, 370 kilometers northwest, the relay signal from Container 4 activated an identical operation at the Mina Salman port in Bahrain, adjacent to Naval Support Activity Bahrain. 2 containers. These had arrived 3 weeks earlier carrying industrial air conditioning units, deployed their weapon systems at 2:33 a.m. The Bahrain package, 2 107mm MRL systems, and 6 Cornet launchers, targeting NSA Bahrain's Pier complex, the fuel point, and the 5th Fleet Headquarters Building's external communications antenna array. 2:33 a.m. Joint Security Station, Jebel Ali Port Authority. The port security supervisor on duty had 22 years of experience in maritime security. He had been through 4 elevated threat periods, 6 enhanced security exercises, and 2 actual security incidents involving individual criminal actors. He had not been through a scenario where weapons systems deployed from shipping containers. His first indication was not the CCTV alert. It was the sound, a distinctive launch and impact sequence that he had last heard in his military service 20 years earlier, and that his auditory memory identified before his conscious processing had reached a conclusion. He was at the security radio at 2:33 a.m., transmitting an alert to the U.S. Navy Shore Logistics Unit before the second rocket had impacted. The 12 rockets from containers 1 and 2 were in flight within the first 40 seconds. The Cornet ATGMs from container 3 were being engaged by the system's guidance operator. The person who had activated the container from 12 kilometers away was simultaneously guiding the Cornet ATGMs through a live video feed from a camera mounted on Container 3's deployed weapons platform, viewing the feed on a tablet screen and directing each missile with the Cornet's semi-automatic command line-of-sight guidance system. The operator could guide 1 Cornet at a time. Container 3 carried 4. The first Cornet launched at 2:34 a.m. and was guided toward the Shore Logistics Unit's main building entrance. The operator was watching the approach on his tablet when a UAE police vehicle, responding to the sound of the first rocket impacts, turned onto the access road between the operator's line-of-sight camera and the target, breaking the laser guidance path for 2.8 seconds. The Cornet's guidance signal interrupted. The missile impacted the access road surface rather than the building entrance. The second Cornet launched at 2:35 a.m. against the pier where USS Leyte Gulf was moored. The guidance path was unobstructed. The 152mm warhead impacted the pier's fuel transfer infrastructure at the connection point between the shoreside fuel line and the vessel's fuel reception manifold. The fuel transfer infrastructure was not armored. The Cornet's shaped charge detonated against the fuel line connection, severing the line and initiating a fuel fire at the pier's midsection. USS Leyte Gulf's topside watch saw the impact. The crew's immediate response was the standard fire emergency protocol: damage control stations, watertight integrity procedures, fire suppression. The mooring lines were not released in the first 60 seconds because the fire was on the pier rather than on the vessel, and releasing mooring lines in a fire emergency required a commanding officer's authorization that the watch officer was in the process of obtaining. The third Cornet was guided toward USS Mason's mooring position. The USS Mason's bridge watch had been alerted by the previous impacts and the active alarm. The commanding officer, reached on the bridge at 2:35 a.m., had authorized emergency get-underway procedures. The moorings were being released. USS Mason's crew was in the process of preparing to move the ship away from the pier. The third Cornet impacted USS Mason's fantail section at 2:35 a.m. as the ship began to move. The warhead detonated against the stern mooring fitting and the surrounding hull plating. The detonation was outside the hull. The shaped charge had been designed for armored vehicle penetration and encountered an unarmored hull section that it penetrated and then detonated within a void compartment rather than in a critical space. Hull breach in the stern void compartment, not a combat space. Flooding isolated by damage control within 8 minutes. The fourth Cornet was guided toward USS Leyte Gulf's bridge section. The operator's tablet showed the guidance feed. The pier fire was producing smoke that was beginning to obscure the laser path. The operator maintained lock through the smoke for 3 seconds before the smoke density exceeded the laser system's operating threshold. The Cornet's guidance signal broke. The missile veered off its approach vector and impacted in the water between the pier and the vessel. Container 3 had fired 4 Cornets. 1 misguided by traffic obstruction. 1 impacted pier fuel infrastructure. One impacted USS Mason's stern void compartment. One guidance lost and impacted in water. The 12 107mm rockets from containers 1 and 2 had impacted across the fuel storage infrastructure and vehicle staging area. The primary fuel storage tank had been struck by 3 rockets. The fire suppression system activated and was managing the tank fire. 2 vehicle staging area impacts had disabled 3 vehicles and detonated 1 fuel bowser. The remaining 7 rockets had distributed impacts across the facility's open ground areas. The Shore Logistics Unit's main building was intact. USS Leyte Gulf was moored with a pier fire adjacent, but was beginning her own emergency get underway. USS Mason was moving. The IRGC operator had been guided to the rented apartment by a logistics chain that Unit 910 had established over 9 months. He had the container activation receiver, the Cornet guidance tablet, the relay signal transmitter, and a vehicle for departure. At 2:36 a.m., 3 minutes after the first activation, he initiated his departure protocol. Dubai Police Department's Special Operations Group had been alerted at 2:34 a.m. from the Port Security Supervisor's radio transmission. The first police vehicle had been 8 minutes from the port facility when the alert was received. A UAE Ministry of Interior Rapid Response Unit, QRF-7, permanently staged in the Jebel Ali industrial zone for exactly the elevated threat posture that had been in effect for 14 days, was 4 minutes away. QRF-7 arrived at the port perimeter at 2:37 a.m., 4 minutes after the activation. The IRGC operator's vehicle was exiting the industrial zone on the opposite access road. A second QRF-7 element, activated by the initial unit's position report, established a vehicle checkpoint at the industrial zone's primary exit at 2:39 a.m. The IRGC operator's vehicle was stopped at 2:41 a.m., 8 minutes after the activation. The operator was detained. The Bahrain operation had proceeded simultaneously with no direct interference. NSA Bahrain had been alerted at 2:33 a.m. through the relay signal's detection by the installation's electronic surveillance network. The relay signal from Container 4 in Jebel Ali had been detected by NSA Bahrain Signals Intelligence Monitoring as an unusual RF transmission on a cellular frequency that had been flagged in the elevated threat assessment 2 days earlier. The NSA Bahrain security force had been activating its response when the Bahrain containers deployed at 2:33 a.m. The 12 107mm rockets from the Bahrain containers impacted across the Mina Salman Pier area and the NSA Bahrain perimeter zone between 2:33 a.m. and 2:34 a.m. 2 rockets impacted the Pier fuel transfer infrastructure. Fuel fire initiated, suppressed by the installation's pre-positioned fire suppression teams within 11 minutes. 3 rockets impacted in the vehicle compound. 7 impacted in open ground areas within the perimeter. The Cornet ATGMs from the Bahrain containers were guided by a second operator located 8 kilometers from the installation. Of 6 Cornets fired, 2 were engaged by the NSA Bahrain security team using mounted heavy machine gun fire from the perimeter vehicle. The tracer rounds disrupting the laser guidance path on both missiles, causing them to impact short of their targets. 1 impacted the antenna array structure supporting the 5th Fleet communications infrastructure. The antenna array sustained structural damage. A backup system was activated within 3 minutes, but the primary antenna array was non-operational for an estimated 6 hours. 2 impacted in open ground. 1 was fired against the 5th Fleet headquarters building and impacted the building's exterior wall. The Cornets-shaped charge detonated against the building's reinforced concrete exterior without penetrating. The building's internal structure was undamaged. NSA Bahrain's security force identified the container origin at 2:41 a.m. through a combination of the CCTV imagery showing the weapon deployment sequence and the Cornet's guidance laser backscatter direction finding, which had identified the approximate direction of the guidance operator. Bahraini security forces and NSA Bahrain's force protection element established a cordon at 2:43 a.m. The Bahrain operator was located in a warehouse 7.4 kilometers from the installation at 2:51 a.m. and detained. Both operators were in custody. 18 minutes after first activation, the forensic analysis of the detained operator's devices began within the hour. The cellular activation receiver in each container had logged its signal receipt times and the originating transmission signatures. The Cornet guidance tablets contained the preloaded targeting data and the live video feed history from the container cameras. The relay transmitter from Container 4 in Jebel Ali contained the coordination signal structure that connected the two operations. The SOCOM intelligence element's preliminary analysis produced a targeting framework assessment at 3:11 a.m. The 9-month preparation timeline was inferred from the container arrival dates, cross-referenced against the shipping company's registration history and the IRGC Unit 910's known logistics patterns for pre-positioned operations. The shipping company had been registered in Bahrain under a name that had appeared in a signals intelligence report 14 months earlier as a probable Unit 910 front company. A report that had been transmitted to the 5th Fleet's intelligence cell and had been filed under the regional threat assessment without generating a specific port security action. The report had been filed. The port security action had not been taken. The connection between a probable front company flag in a signals report and a container sitting in Terminal 4 required an analyst to have both the signals report and the container manifest database open at the same time, and to run a cross-reference search. That search was not part of any existing standard operating procedure. It was the kind of connection that required either a very attentive analyst or an automated system designed to generate exactly that cross-reference. The automated system had been requested in the 2023 Intelligence Infrastructure Review. Its development authorization was pending budget confirmation. The pending authorization status was noted in the after-action report. The report was classified. The recommendation was specific. The cost of the automated cross-reference system was approximately $3.4 million. The inspection of 47,000 containers across 6 ports at the cost of the portable X-ray equipment, the additional labor, and the throughput delay it generated for the commercial shipping that sustained the region's logistics economy was assessed at approximately $84 million. The ratio between the cost of the preventive system and the cost of the response it would have prevented was one the after-action report presented without commentary. The numbers were not ambiguous. The U.S. Special Operations Command component in the region had activated at 2:35 a.m. on the first report from Jebel Ali and had coordinated with the UAE and Bahraini security services from that point. By 2:47 a.m., SOCOM's intelligence analysis element had produced the preliminary assessment. Coordinated IRGC Unit 910 operation, 2 simultaneous activations, weapon systems pre-positioned in shipping containers, cellular activation mechanism, semi-autonomous guidance through commercial tablet relay. The operations planning timeline was assessed at 9 months minimum, based on the container arrival dates and the logistics chain identified through the detained operator's devices. The after-action question, the one that would occupy the security review for the following months, was not what had happened. It was when the containers had first been visible in the intelligence picture, and what had been done about it. The answer was, the containers had been scanned on arrival. The scan resolution had not been sufficient. The elevated threat assessment in effect for 14 days had included a specific warning about IRGC pre-positioned assets in the region. The warning had specified weapons in containers as one of 12 assessed threat vectors. It had been one of 12 items on a checklist that the Port Security Authority had reviewed and assessed as being monitored through existing protocols. Existing protocols had been designed for individual actors carrying weapons through a terminal, not for weapon systems pre-deployed in sealed containers. The threat vector had been assessed correctly. The existing protocol had not addressed it. The Port Security Review that had rejected enhanced X-ray resolution in 2021 to preserve 23% throughput had been accurate in its throughput calculation. Its cost-benefit framework had assigned a probability value to the weapons in containers threat vector that the 2021 security environment had not yet produced sufficient historical data to calibrate accurately. The 2024 security environment had now produced the calibration data. At 3:19 a.m., the U.S. Naval Forces Central Command ordered an immediate comprehensive reinspection of all shipping containers within 500 meters of any U.S. military facility in the 5th Fleet area of responsibility. The order covered approximately 47,000 containers across 6 ports. The inspection would require deploying portable high-resolution X-ray equipment from pre-positioned stocks and would take an estimated 14 to 22 days to complete. During those 14 to 22 days, the pre-existing elevated threat posture was extended and enhanced. Additional armed security patrols, standoff barriers repositioned between container staging areas and military facilities, and immediate consultation with the UAE and Bahraini security authorities on a joint container security protocol. The consultation produced an agreement at the working level within 4 days. The policy authorization for both governments took 11 days. 4:04 a.m. NSA Bahrain, 5th Fleet Operations Center. The duty watch commander had been coordinating the installation's response since 2:33 a.m. The primary antenna array was on backup. The Pier fire was out. The Bahrain operator was in custody. The installation's primary operations had not been disrupted. The 5th Fleet Command Authority had been maintained throughout through the backup communications system. He had overseen the response to an attack that had originated from inside the installation's protective buffer zone, from containers that had been through customs inspection and had been cleared. He had watched his perimeter force respond correctly and effectively once the threat was visible. He had not been able to prevent the attack from being initiated because the threat had not been visible until it deployed. He logged the operational status at 4:04 a.m. Installation operational. Primary communications degraded to backup. Pier fuel infrastructure non-operational pending repair. He noted the antenna array status. He noted the Pier fire suppression completion. He did not note the containers. Their status was in the incident report, not the operational log. The incident report would take 3 days to complete. Time from first activation to operator detention in Jebel Ali, 8 minutes. Time from first activation to operator detention in Bahrain, 18 minutes. Time from first activation to both facilities returning to full operational status. Jebel Ali, 6 hours. Bahrain, 6 hours for primary antenna array. IRGC weapons employed. 4 modified Conex containers across 2 ports. 4 times 107 mm multiple rocket launchers with 12 rockets each, total 48 rockets. 10 Cornet ATGM launchers with 4 missiles each, total 40 ATGMs. 2 signals relay systems. 2 operators, both detained within 18 minutes. Jebel Ali effects. Shore logistics unit fuel storage fire, suppressed. Pier fuel transfer infrastructure damaged. USS Mason. Stern void compartment hull breach, flooding controlled, non-operational temporarily. USS Leyte Gulf. Undamaged. Emergency get underway completed. Shore logistics unit main building, intact. U.S. personnel. 4 service members injured from blast effects of rocket impacts in vehicle staging area. NSA Bahrain effects. Pier fuel transfer infrastructure non-operational. Primary antenna array damaged. Backup operational within 3 minutes. 5th Fleet Headquarters exterior wall impact. Interior structure undamaged. Vehicle compound damage. U.S. personnel. 2 service members injured from rocket blast effects. Counter-operation. SOCOM intelligence element in coordination with UAE and Bahraini security services. Both operators detained 8 and 18 minutes post-activation. Logistics chain investigation ongoing. Total cost of the engagement, including facility repair, vessel assessment, and security response operations. Assessed at approximately $47 million. The IRGC had not fired a missile from Iranian territory. It had not launched an aircraft. It had not activated a naval asset. It had not done anything that created an SBIRS detection event, a radar track, an acoustic signature, or any other indicator that the defensive systems in this series had been built to detect and respond to. It had signed a shipping manifest, paid a container fee, and waited 9 months. The 47,000 containers now being inspected at cost and delay represented the adversary's second-order effect. The disruption to the logistics flow that sustained U.S. naval operations in the Fifth Fleet area was not from the weapons that had fired, but from the security response that had to be implemented after they fired. The throughput calculation that had been rejected in 2021 had not included the cost of inspecting 47,000 containers in 2024. That cost was now known. Both facilities were operational within 6 hours. The containers had done more by being inspected than by being deployed.